What happened when your teacher was mentally ill? We knew something was different about Mr. Shields the day he walked in wearing two different shoes and started teaching us Spanish conjugations in our chemistry class. He'd been our favorite teacher all year with his dad jokes and perfectly organized lesson plans, but that December morning he looked like he hadn't slept in days and kept calling us by the wrong names. Mr. Shields had always been the teacher who remembered everyone's birthday and kept extra supplies for kids who forgot theirs. He'd stay after school to help anyone struggling and made chemistry actually fun with his experiments. His classroom walls were covered with photos of his family and student projects from the past 10 years. Everyone wanted him for their science teacher. The first week of December started with small things. He showed up 20 minutes late on Monday mumbling about traffic even though he lived 5 minutes away. His usually neat handwriting on the board turned into barely readable scribbles. He assigned us the same homework 3 days in a row, then got confused when we told him we'd already done it. Vicky tried to point out he'd worn the same coffee-stained shirt all week, but he just stared at her blankly. By the second week, things got more concerning. He started mixing up our names with students from years ago and once spent an entire class period talking about the Revolutionary War instead of chemical reactions. His hands shook when he tried to pour chemicals for demonstrations, and he dropped 2 beakers that shattered on the floor. The other teachers started peeking into our classroom more often like they were checking on him. We found out from Marcus, whose mom worked in the main office, that Mr. Shields was going through a divorce. His wife had moved out right after Thanksgiving and taken their kids to her parents' house. The photos on his desk disappeared one by one until his classroom looked empty and cold. He stopped eating lunch in the teacher's lounge and would just sit at his desk staring at nothing. The breaking point came the week before winter break. Mr. Shields showed up looking completely disheveled with his shirt inside out and mismatched socks. He couldn't find his lesson plan and kept shuffling through the same papers over and over. When Tommy asked if we were reviewing for the test, Mr. Shields just laughed this hollow laugh that made everyone uncomfortable. He sat down at his desk and put his head in his hands. That's when Mrs. Rodriguez from next door came in and gently asked Mr. Shields to come with her. He looked up with tears in his eyes and nodded like he knew what was happening. She put her hand on his shoulder and walked him out while we all sat there in shocked silence. Another teacher came in to watch us for the rest of the period, but nobody could focus on anything. We found out later that Mr. Shields had been dealing with some health issues that required daily medication to manage. The stress of his divorce had disrupted his routine, and he'd been struggling to take care of himself. The other teachers had been trying to cover for him and help him through it because they all loved him too. But after that day, the administration decided he needed time to focus on his health. The next Monday, we had a substitute teacher who told us Mr. Shields wouldn't be returning for the rest of the year. Everyone was upset, especially because we knew how much he loved teaching. Some parents complained that we'd been in an unsafe learning environment, but most of us just felt sad for him. He was going through the worst time of his life and lost his job on top of everything else. I ran into Mr. Shields at the grocery store the following summer. He looked healthier with color back in his face and his clothes neat again. He smiled when he saw me and asked how I was doing. He told me he was getting treatment and spending time with his kids on weekends. He said he missed teaching but understood why he had to leave. I told him everyone missed him too. Before we said goodbye, he thanked me for being patient with him during those hard weeks. He said he knew he hadn't been himself and appreciated that his students had tried to help even when they didn't understand what was wrong. I wanted to tell him we all hoped he'd come back to teaching someday, but the words got stuck in my throat. He squeezed my shoulder and walked away. The school hired a new chemistry teacher who was fine but not the same. She didn't remember our birthdays or stay after school to help. Mr. Shields had been more than just a teacher to us, and watching him fall apart that December taught me that even the strongest people sometimes need help. I still think about him and hope he found his way back to a classroom somewhere because that's where he belonged.